She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Loneliness sucks. Oh, I know that might have upset you, but really, it really is a terrible, terrible thing. This is Dani Johnson. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show, where every single day we bring you fresh content to help gird you up and help to guide you towards success, real, true success, a holistic approach to success, emotional success, mental, physical, relational, financial, spiritual success. That's what we're all about here every single day. And also coming to you from the website, DaniJohnson.com, where every tool, every tip, every form of training that we provide for business, finance, and relationship is all geared to helping you to live a fully successful life, not a life that has success only in business and finance, yet your marriage and your kids are a disaster, or that your marriage and kids are fine and you're terrible in business and finance, or that those other two categories are great, but the health is a disaster, or that you're so consumed with your life that you have no social influence at all in your own neighborhood or in your own community or even at work. I believe that you are somebody that was knitted together in your mother's womb with a plan and a purpose in mind. I know that there is a calling that's been calling out of you since you were knee-high to a grasshopper, and we want to do what we can to help you reach that calling, that destiny that calls out to you. So oftentimes we get distracted with all of the temptations of our society that has tried to define for us what success looks like, what usually has to do with stuff, and you end up with the stuff, yet miserable with the debt, miserable in relationships because of the sacrifices of being a workaholic to get all the stuff. You can get it all if you're willing to learn, willing to work, and willing to give some new strategies, develop some new skills, willing to give those new skills a try. I am confident that you can live out the life that you never even thought was possible, a peaceful life, and yet an exhilarating life all at the same time. It is possible to experience those things. Loneliness is something that has begun to plague our society. And where is it coming from? Largely, many experts believe that, yes, we seem to be really connected now, through Facebook, through text messaging, through computers and email, through all forms of social media, yet we are the most disconnected internally. Meaning we don't have strong emotional bonds anymore like we used to. And the family unit no longer is something that even seems to matter. We see families today that aren't even meeting around the dinner table for a meal any longer. But instead, that if we are having a meal, and if by chance it is at the table, which is a rare thing, everyone has their devices out, earbuds in, watching different videos, even playing games during the dinner time where the family are supposed to be coming together. We have to be very vigilant and diligent and even ferocious with protecting that family time, but also protecting intimacy, having intimate relationships with people. I'm not talking just sexual relationships with your spouse, but I'm talking a real heart, spirit-to-spirit connection with those that we live with, work with, celebrate with, have church with, if that's your kind of a thing. Almost half of our population, it's about 40%, have said and reported that they feel lonely. That means that if you are not lonely, chances are your spouse or your kids or your neighbor or your coworkers just might be. Have you ever battled with loneliness? I am a firm believer, if you're lonely, you are not going to reach your full potential. You're not going to reach your full destiny because your life is attached to other people's lives. Every single one of our lives are attached to other people's lives. And so if we are lonely, it means that we've created some walls on the outside of us that have caused isolation to happen on the inside of us. And isolation is a very, very dangerous thing. Isolation is used kind of like a lion who is out, who is spotting its prey. It waits for the weak one in a pack of animals to be isolated from the rest, and that's when it goes in to strike. The one that has been isolated, a rest from the power of the numbers. And so isolation is dangerous. It leads to depression, even suicide in some cases. It certainly doesn't pull the best out of you. and you've got giftings and talents that's inside of you that is supposed to be used. So if you have ever battled with loneliness, I want to hear from you, and here's why. Let's share that story of loneliness so that if somebody else is listening, that they might see that they have some of those symptoms, and then if you've been able to overcome, we want to hear that too, because there are lonely people that are watching and listening right now to this program, and there are some who feel more attached to this program than they do the person they are sharing the bed with, and this is not right. This is not right. There's fulfilling relationships awaiting for you, but you have to be willing to live a little bit on the risky wild side and let your guard down a little bit and begin to let people in. Joining me right now on line 1 is Becca Holverson from Idaho. Becca, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes. So have you ever battled with loneliness?
I battled with loneliness for quite a while. It just kept sucking me in and dragging me down.
Tell me, Becca, how did loneliness suck you in?
Well, like you mentioned about isolation, it's just a moment of pain in life and feeling the need to grieve. For me personally, it was 3 counts of domestic violence that occurred over numerous years.
Right.
And just feeling the need to grieve that and the loss, I gave it too much time. I just got pulled into the grieving process and isolated myself and listened to the enemy voice that was in my head. Yep. It was awful.
Yeah. And so I love the words that you use, it sucks you in. That's why I say loneliness sucks. And it really does. It sucks you almost like a vacuum, and you're trying to hold on to any kind of life, but then you're pulled in to darkness. So when you were living in that place of darkness, what did a day in the life of Becca look like?
Well, it's just basically living in your home and not reaching out to others and looking for something to fill the void of what was taken from me, which was my pride and my dignity.
Yes.
And just staying put, staying sedentary, and it was the worst thing that I could have done for myself.
Did you sleep a lot? Did you watch TV a lot? Did you play video games? What did you do during the day?
I would say sleeping and eating were probably my biggest comfort in that time.
Yep. I'm so sorry about the domestic violence, Becca, that you had. That is awful. I've been through too much of that in my life, and it's painful, especially to a child. But I can't imagine walking through the level that you did of that domestic violence, and it just makes you feel like you're worthless and you're useless and you live in fear.
That is true.
Yeah.
It was a very painful time, and for many years after it happened, it was still very painful.
So do you think that you drove the grieving deeper than it needed to go?
Absolutely.
Yep. So what would you have done differently?
Say that again?
What would you have done differently?
I would have reached out sooner.
And when you say reaching out, because there's somebody that's listening right now, they somehow just, picked up their phone and, maybe got a text from somebody about today's program, and they're laying in bed with the blinds closed, right? The bedroom is blacked out, just like your and my bedroom were blacked out, and they're all snuggered up in their comforter and their fluffy pillow in their same pajamas they've been wearing for a week, with crumbs in the sheets because of this deep, lonely depression. What finally made you come out? And when you say you reached out, how did you do that? What was the first person, or who was the first person, or what was the first thing you did when it came from this?
Well, I grew up in a Jesus-loving home. And I knew that laying in bed, being inside, trapping myself inside, and shutting out all the people who could potentially cause me more pain, that feeling of comfort was really pain.
Yep.
And I knew that stepping out in faith was going to be even more painful.
Initially.
Yes.
Initially. It's more painful.
But the reward of getting outside, getting fresh air, connecting with people, and personally, I connected with my church. Were supportive to me, and I knew that it was going to be hard to connect with them, and that the voices of shame were going to be loud and clear. But I had to push through. I just had to. You just have to.
Yes.
You do it for yourself, for something better.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing what fresh air will do. It's amazing what will happen when you step out to tell somebody, I'm hurting, I'm lonely, I gotta break free from this. And just even starting conversation, even if you don't initially like confess what it is that you're feeling, but just to be engaged with other people, you know what I mean? To have that kind of engagement. When I was homeless, I didn't have a home, so I had to be outside. And so even though I was outside and I was in the sun and I was on the beach and I was surrounded by people, because again, I was homeless, and where I lived, there was people, new people every day, travelers coming from all over the world to visit where I had lived. I was so deeply lonely. So you can even be surrounded by people and yet still be lonely inside. And that loneliness comes from the walls that you build that you think are going to protect you from being hurt by anybody else. But in all reality, the walls itself are destroying your life. And this is where you have to come to a place where you have to destroy the walls and get outside of them. And one of the first things that I did is I started a business actually, and I started talking to people. I started talking to people, started having conversations. I started to focus on other people's problems, which made my problems seem like they were nothing. They were. And when I focused on how can I help this person get beyond their issue, it helped me get beyond my issue. It was kind of an accountability thing. Becca, thank you so much for sharing. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
If you're dealing with grief and loneliness and you can't seem to get past it, the next segment is for you. Stay tuned to The Dani Johnson Show.
For families in Santa Pancha, Nicaragua, life is filled with fear and struggle. They don't have enough food for their kids, clean water is hard to find, and they're living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel on top of mining tunnels that could explode and sink at any moment. But a miracle is in the making, and you can be a part of transforming this village. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha to see how you can help. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org, and click on Santa Pancha.
And now, back to The Dani Johnson Show.
You know, there's a lie that sometimes that floats around your head and says, I can do this on my own. I'm going to be fine. And Dani, no way do I need to open myself up to people. All they're going to do is hurt me. I promise you. Just because you've had a few hurt you doesn't mean all people are going to hurt you. And you actually need people in your life. And every day here on the Dani Johnson Show, we are shining light on things that are stopping you from reaching your full destiny. There is a plan and a purpose for your life. There's a calling. There's something you were created for. You were created for a purpose. And that purpose is not shutting the blinds and closing people off. It is not sleeping until you die. In food. It is not allowing loneliness to control your life as it did mine many, many years ago. It is about living this life by design and not by default. And I promise you, if you would just let down that loneliness, let go of it, surrender from it, and allow other people to come into your life and learn new skills of managing relationships and get healed from the inside out so that you can have peace, you can have joy, you can have harmony. We're talking about loneliness today because there is almost half of our population that says that they battle with loneliness. In this world, we are so connected through technology in our careers. We're busy, yucky, but we are not connecting emotionally. We are not connecting intimately with other human beings, which is what we were created for. We were created for intimacy. We were created for love. And if we are lonely, we are living a loveless life. So if you have battled with these things, we want to hear from you, because I know that there's people listening right now that are going through that, and we can help them to succeed. And by the way, when you share your story of loneliness, then it helps somebody else to get courage to come out of that deep, dark, cold, musty, humid cave. We want to help somebody today. So going over the phones, we have E-Fabulous, what a great name, from Houston, Texas. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Thank you. Hi there.
Hi. Great name.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So what about you? Have you ever struggled with loneliness?
I struggle with loneliness on a daily basis.
Really?
One of my issues is that loneliness is multi-layered, but I believe that we as a people, when we remove the stigmatism from loneliness and admit that it is a part of our culture and society now, be healed and help heal other people.
Yep. I completely agree with that. I think loneliness is something that kind of snuck up on our society, and we were not expecting it as a people. I think there's people in places and high places that purposely did that because, again, divide and conquer, isolate, and then you can program people and you can bring them into places and things like pornography being one of them, right? That's an isolated, lonely addiction that is very secretive. Nobody knows about it, but the reality is it just shows up all over their entire life. It shows up in their work habits. It shows up in their lack of intimacy with their spouses and their kids. And so it shows up. It's just a lie that says no one knows. And so I think it is something that snuck up on us. And that's why we need to be aware and know how to combat that thing. So when you say that you battle with loneliness daily, talk to me about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I went through a really bad divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And when my ex-husband left me, I was in the depths of despair. Mm-hmm. I looked around, and this person that had pretty much been my right-hand person for 10 years was now gone. What was I to do? I had a little child to look after, and I didn't know who I was, because not only was I lonely in the marriage, now I was lonely by myself.
Yeah.
The loneliness ended up consuming me, and I had 2 nervous breakdowns.
Yes.
And it was not until my doctor looked me in the eye and said, what you're going through is normal. There are people every day that lose a marriage after 10 or 20 years, and they have to rebuild themselves. Yeah. You are not alone. Yeah. And then I realized that my loneliness was a byproduct of the society that I lived in. And so now when I feel the loneliness creep up on me, my number one weapon is gratitude.
Amen.
So every time I feel like I'm by myself, I'm never going to have another teammate, another partner, I then look over and realize God brought me through this.
Amen.
God's given me a great career. I've traveled the world. I've lived in England. I have a beautiful child. So I combat loneliness. I fight it head on by being thankful for everything that I have.
Yes. And gratitude actually is the combination. It's the code that unlocks the vault to blessing. Clearly. I battled with depression for several years, not even knowing it, not even realizing I was battling with depression. And my depression was caused by a nutritional deficiency. There was a supplement that I ended up taking. It was like, oh my gosh, I had just had 5 kids. My body was completely depleted of all possible minerals, and minerals affect the hormones, affect the mind, affect your emotions, affect everything. And it was like, whoa. But after you go through the lows, and now you start entertaining the lows. Now you fix dinner for the lows. Now you sleep with the lows. Now you take a shower with the lows. Now you're like, the lows are your best friends, and they're not supposed to be. But man, when I came out of that, I was like, I'm alive. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First steps to success, register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS. Helping you become all you were meant to be. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Nobody wants to be around me anyway, Dani. I'm such a downer. I'm Debbie Downer. I'm negative Ned. It's just, I'm critical. It's just the way I am. My mom was this way. My dad was this way. My sisters and brothers were this way. It's just the way I am. Who cares? I care. And you have to understand that your life doesn't have to be that way. I once was there, and I lived there for too long, way too long. And it began to kill me on the inside. It began to affect how I parented my children. It began to affect how I worked and who I chose to work with and how I worked with them. It was not healthy. And I think it is important, as we discovered in that last segment, that that people go through hard times, and it is normal to grieve the marriage that just got destroyed. It's normal to grieve the loss of a loved one. But it is not healthy and not good to stay there for a long period of time. It's not healthy and it's not good to continue to repeat the pain over and over again. But it is healthy to release that pain. Because once you open the door to loneliness, now here comes depression, suppression, oppression. Here comes anxiety. Here comes fear. Here comes self-hate. Here comes self-destruction. And that's not the life that your Creator has intended for you. It is time for you to rise up, step up out of the gloom, out of the doom, out of that musty closet that you call yourself a bedroom. Pull off the covers off of your head and start to get dressed, start to take a shower, start to integrate with other people. And there's so many different types of support groups that are out there to help you through and walk you through loneliness. One that I will tell you that I think is one of the most powerful group of people on the planet is the community that gathers around the Facebook page Dani Johnson Live. These people are amazing. You need encouragement every day. In fact, just recently, there was a group of people who all met in a living room. I don't know, maybe 8 of us, 10 of us max, on a Tuesday night. And at 7 o'clock, and we get together to have a time of music and rejoicing. And then we made a Facebook post and say, we're here to pray for you. We're here because we love you, and we want to know what your prayer requests are. Leave a comment of a prayer request, and we are going to be committed to praying for you for the next hour and a half or so. Sure enough, are you ready for this? Right away, within an hour, we had 1,000 comments. By the next day, and we prayed for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, and then released to everybody right there on Facebook 3-4 different messages of past programs like this that could help them in the most common areas that we saw that prayer requests were coming in. When you see what people are suffering from, it causes you to be more grateful for the life it is that you have. And we're talking horrible things. There's a lot about health. There was a lot about finances and jobs and marriage and relationships. And so we, for free, we gave our people there on Facebook, and there's nearly 300,000 of them that are joining together there. And so by the next day, there was now 2,500 comments. I was blown away. 2,500 people gathering on one thread, leaving comments, leaving prayer requests, people who are in need. If you ever come to a place where you think your life is so terrible, put a focus on somebody else. See what they're going through and make a commitment to pray for them. Make a commitment to rally around them. Make a commitment to encourage them. And encouragement begins to come into your life as well. So we're talking about battling and winning the battle against and escaping from the prison of loneliness. So far today, we've heard some amazing things. Gratitude being one of them. Making the decision to get out of the house, go breathe some fresh air. Start talking to people. Tap into your church. Okay, in this case, I'm talking about tapping into this community. Our community, the Dani Johnson Live page on Facebook, my gosh, has encouraged me to no end. There's certain things that I can share with them that I can't even share with some of my family members. I can't. Why? I get sick and tired of hearing the exciting things that happen, the crazy miracles that happen in my life. I mean, so sometimes I say, oh my gosh, this crazy miracle happened. They're like, oh, that's great. Awesome. But I could go share it with our Facebook community and they're like, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Sometimes your family get tired of it, and that's okay. But there are communities, they really are, and there's some amazing, fabulous people that you can meet in lots of different places. And again, if you don't know of one, tap in. They're really heartfelt, wonderful people who are growing. It's a people that are paying off debt. It's a people who are taking care of the orphan and the poor. It's a people that are becoming better spouses. They're becoming better parents. They're becoming better workers. They're becoming better business people. They're becoming more purpose. What a great people to hang out with. Again, that's facebook.com/Dani Johnson Live. So if you're on Facebook, come on over and say hello and meet these amazing people. So we got Jackie Watson from Canton, Illinois. Jackie, have you ever battled with loneliness?
Yes, I have.
And how have you defeated this, or how have you come out of this prison?
Well, I'm still in it. I battle it daily. I try to put my focus into helping others, and I have to say my business has grown and flourished. A little over a year ago, my son was killed in a car crash, and, it was totally unexpected, and, your world comes to an end.
How old was he?
He was 32.
Oh, my gosh.
And I can't explain it feels like your insides are being torn out, and your heart, and being stepped on, and you, even though you have people around you, you feel alone. And I walk in, he has a room in our house still, even though he'd moved out. I had to go clean out his house, and I moved his stuff back to my house, a lot of it. And he still had a room there that I've cleaned out somewhat, but it still has his high school stuff in it. And you walk in it, and you feel what you're missing. You really feel the loneliness. And I have poured myself into my business some, because I don't sleep as well anymore. And when I wake up at night, lots of times I'll get on my computer and I'll work. And
so your coping mechanism is work.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Jackie, do you have any other children?
Yes. I have a son and a daughter and 2 granddaughters.
Okay. First of all, I cannot imagine what that's like. No mother or father has plans to bury their own son or daughter. No parent does. Yet it is a part of life. Unfortunately, it's part of living here on planet Earth in a place like this. And that doesn't make it easier, but grieving is part of a human function in life. And there's something that I found recently. I had done a funeral for a couple who lost a baby. And just so happened, I don't know why I stumbled upon this, but the Bible tells us that there's a certain amount of days allotted for grieving. And I think there's some powerful wisdom in that. And there is a surrender that we must do to move on in our lives. And so sometimes I believe that there's an enemy of our soul that wants to keep us in the grieving process and loves to fish to us different coping mechanisms that keep us grieving instead of having us walk in freedom. Have you ever felt like that if you experienced joy, that you would feel like a bad mom and feel guilty if you experienced joy because your son passed away a year ago?
Not exactly. The holidays seem wrong, and I just, not so much joy or being able to go do something and have fun, but the times when everybody should be, if there's just, you just know something's missing when you're together at the holidays. That everything seems kind of hollow and like the joy sucked out of it.
But Jackie, let me ask you a question. The joy being sucked out of it is simply a mindset focus versus gratitude that you still have 2 children, a son and a daughter, and 2 grandchildren. Instead of the gratitude of, I had 32 years with my boy. And I'm so grateful for those 32 years. And I'm grateful for the next year or the next day that I have with the current kids that are here with me. Grieving has to come to an end. Otherwise, it bleeds and robs and rots our insides of the rest of the joy and the fulfilling relationships that we have access to right now. You're not going to believe this, but I'm pretty sure the Bible says that we have 1 week to grieve. 1 week. And then it's over. And we walk away and it's done. And here's why. Because grief can become our God. Grieving and mourning can become our God. And when it's all we think about, when it's all we focus on, and when we allow that spirit of grieving and mourning to rob a joyous family occasion, when we allow it to rob relationships with our spouse and our other kids or other relationships, it's become our God. And it has to die. It has to be done because it can't rob you anymore. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Stay right here for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your freedom, your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
This is The Dani Johnson Show.
I know it might seem heartless and insensitive to say that grieving sometimes, that it has to come to an end, that it has to be done, because if we open our door to loneliness because of the grieving that is continuously coming to us, when we open up our lives to loneliness and constant mourning and heaviness, oppression begins to come. And then we look for coping mechanisms to lift us up. But this is not the life that is intended for you. Unfortunately and factually, death is as much of a part of life as living is. And mothers who have to lay down their sons or daughters to rest, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to us, I believe. Just as I was not prepared to watch my daughter suffer when she was 16 years old of a double aneurysm, I was not prepared. There's nothing in life that ever prepared me for that kind of a suffering and for me to watch that. At the same time, I could still be there. I could still be worrying and wondering if Erica's going to have another aneurysm. And oh my gosh, what if the rest of the 4 kids of the 5 have some kind of birth defect that Erica had, but we didn't know, and you don't know until she has an aneurysm and almost dies. You know, and then, oh my gosh, and then, gosh, what if that like happens to any one of my 7 grandchildren? And oh, what if it happens to my best friend Jen and my girlfriend Mona? And what if it happens to you know, my husband Hans? I mean, what if you could live grief? Can take you into the what-if place of possibilities of more pain and more suffering and rob your life of joy. That's why I believe the Bible has told us that there's a portion for grieving. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 1 week. That for 1 week, it is grieving and mourning, cry your brains out, wail like crazy, slam your chest, rip your clothes, pull your hair out, shave your head. Okay, be angry for that week. And then after that, get up, take a shower, and now go back to work. Go back to living. That is not disrespecting the dead. What is disrespecting the dead is continuously mourning and grieving and being lonely and finding coping mechanisms to move through it. That's what would be dishonoring and disrespecting the dead. They're dead. We have to let them go. We have to let them rest. And we have to continue to choose joy, to choose love, to choose peace, and to be free from the heaviness of mourning and grieving. I've had to train myself to do that because I have a tendency to go to loneliness. My tendency is isolation. My tendency is not to talk to people. My tendency is to live in my earplugs. My husband says I wear earplugs half of my life. I sleep with earplugs and I leave them in for at least 2 more hours after I get up in the morning. That's almost half of my day, half of the time. Sleep 8 hours, 2 hours more of earplugs. It's 10 hours a day with earplugs. I like silence. And I've actually spent all day long in earplugs before. I tend to go towards isolation. I tend to go towards quiet, peace, silence. I like those kinds of things. I have a huge family. But again, there has to be a balance. There has to be a time and a season for everything. And if you've been grieving for a long time, it's time to surrender to joy. It's time to surrender to peace. It's time to surrender to wholeness and to surrender to being healed. And you have to let go. You have to let go of the grieving and the mourning in order to receive and to surrender to those other things that's going to give you a much more fulfilling life. Over here, we also have Chris Smith from Michigan. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hello.
Hi. So what's your story about loneliness?
I don't even know where to start. Mine pretty much started back in '97. I killed a friend of mine drunk driving.
Oh my gosh.
And then I lost my mom after that. And a year later, I met would be my wife. And we were expecting twins. My mom wanted grandkids so bad, and I was expecting twins at 35 years old, and I just couldn't get over just what happened in my wreck and stuff like that. And I've been to rehabs, and the normal person probably would have quit drinking, and I couldn't. I was trying to drink it under, and then after me and my wife got married, we had another little one. I have a stepson who's 10, twins that are 6, and a 2-year-old. Wow. And now, and I'd work 7 days a week. My wife was from a Christian background, and I wasn't. She's actually from the Amish community, and she never joined church, but that's what she grew up. I didn't grow up in a church at all. Never even went to a church.
Wow.
And she tried to embed it into me, and I just was negative towards it all, everything. And one day I come home from work, I give her my whole check, and and all I used the money for was just gas to go back and forth to work, and that was it. And then I come home one day, it was just about Christmas time, and they were gone. Yep. She went and took the kids out of school, and I couldn't find them. Yep. I dropped to the ground. I never felt loneliness like that in my life, and I'm still fighting with it. I'm still trying to find God. I can't find the church that I'm looking for. I went clear to Texas to watch you with my wife. We are divorced now. She filed papers, and me myself, I wouldn't file papers because I don't believe in divorce. My parents were divorced. My mom stayed with my dad for 20-some years till his kids were out of school, and it just seems like I've been in and out of jobs. I build RVs for a living, campers, you name it, I've built it on different companies, and there's good money in it, and it just always seems like I'm fighting with money. Yeah. I'm very greedy when it comes to money. I can't make enough. I made $50, $60 an hour, and still left the job and went and found another one, and it just I just can't be happy. Wow. And right now my kids, I see my kids every 2 weeks. I can talk to them on Wednesdays. And my stepson, I hardly ever see him, and I miss him bad. I raised him way over most of his life. Wow. And I'm still lonely. The courts have told me what I can do and I can't do with my kids, and seeing my kids every 2 weeks and talking to them once a week, it's not enough for me. I love my kids to death. Yes. I love them, and they're 2 hours away. And I don't say nothing bad about her leaving. I would have left me too. I was disconnected. All I wanted to do was work. Yeah. I was mean, not abusive, but just wasn't connecting. Yeah. I just thought I was doing. That's how I learned. Yeah. My dad was in Vietnam and messed his head up, and that's how I learned. Yeah.
Chris, I am so sorry for everything that has happened to you from the time of being so young in the childhood, the losing the friend, losing your mother, losing now your wife and your children. Chris, there is a solution, and there is a God that loves you. He loves you, and he wants to lead you, and he wants you to know him. And you have to make the decision to surrender to him. He's the only one that can heal you from the inside out. He's the only one that can make the difference in your life. He's the only one that can make all things new. He's the only one that can remap the way your mind thinks. He's the only one that can restore the relationship with your wife and restore the relationship that he's calling for you to have with him. We have to go to a quick break, but I'm going to give you a phone number on that break, and I want you to call that phone number. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job Domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Wow, what a break we just had. I wish you could have been involved what happened on that break as well. In fact, yeah. Anyway, your life can change in a moment. And if you were one that has been battling with loneliness, I want to give you a phone number of somebody that helped me through my battle of loneliness. I gave a baby up for adoption when I was 18. I listened to all the wrong people who told me that I wouldn't be a good parent. I listened to all the wrong people that said that the child was going to suffer because I would be a single mom. I listened to a lot of manipulation, and I did the most unthinkable thing. And for 14 years, I felt such a terrible loneliness inside of me because of doing something I never wanted to do. There's decisions that we make that causes us to make worse decisions. And those worse decisions brought in loneliness. But I'm so grateful that I encountered a woman, a wise woman, who helped walk me through that. Another tool that you can use to help you, that I love to give you as a gift, is this book right here, First Steps to Wealth. It tells you how I walked out of being homeless, totally isolated, and how I created a crazy career that paid millions of dollars, that today the millions goes to taking care of the poor. I draw no salary from anything that I do. First Steps to Wealth. It's your copy right now. All you have to do is call 866-760-8255. Again, that's 866-760-8255. Get your free copy. You pay the shipping to get it to your house, and we'll pay for the $15 book to get it to you. Lastly, think about the loneliness of someone like Audalis, who has 4 children. She's a single mom. And every day she has to decide which child is going to eat, because on $2 a day, she cannot feed all 4 in the same day. Could you imagine the loneliness of having twin little girls that are 9 months old and picking which one of them are going to get milk today? That is a crazy, awful level of loneliness. But you can help Audalis as well as the many countless others who are suffering through the same thing. And one cure for loneliness is to help someone else who is going through a struggle that's far worse than your own. Go to kingsransom.org right now. kingsransom.org. Or you can dial this phone number, 888-291-7123. Again, that's 888-291-7123. And do what you can. You can give $5 right now that will help to put some food on the table for Audalis' children. Or you can put in $5,200 and we can build her a house, put her in business, and give her clean water and food that is going to take care of her and her family for life. kingsransom.org. Do what you can. This is Dani Johnson. I hope you enjoyed today's program. We will meet you tomorrow. Same time, same place. God bless.
This has been the Dani Johnson Show. If you want to hear more, visit us at DaniJohnson.com.
Hi, welcome to the Dani Johnson YouTube channel. We're super excited to have you here. And every single week, we're gonna make sure that you get awesome videos for your business, career, making more money, saving money, annihilating your debt, as well as helping you to handle those really tough problems that you have with people at home, as well as at work, and taking those really good relationships you already have and causing them to flourish and grow. All you have to do is click that subscribe button right down here. Click that and you'll be subscribed to an amazing community of people, as well as some great videos that will help to improve your life. Thanks so much for being here. Subscribe now would be good. Just click it. I know you can see it. It's somewhere down here. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.